Welcome back to the Deconstructed Woman podcast. This is Joji, and I'm here with Alyssa Marie. And we're going to talk about something a little bit timely. Alyssa Marie and I both watched the Super Bowl on Sunday, and it was a wonderful game. But one of the things that I've been wondering about, I'm not a huge football watcher. So basically, once a year, I watch the Super Bowl, and really it's the snacks and the commercials that grab me. And so it's sort of a tradition in my house. We do that. But it has been really distracting this year with the amount of time that Taylor Swift is brought up because she's dating one of the Kansas City Chief players. And it's amazing to me that of all the things that people could be focused on, that so many people are focused on the fact that Taylor Swift is actually in the stands supporting her boyfriend as he's going for, probably one of the most important games of his career, being the fact that he's in the Super Bowl. And so I don't really understand it. It feels like there's been lots of jokes about her at the football games, from lots of different award shows. It's been a common thread on it. And late night shows, everybody pokes fun at football and Taylor Swift. And people are watching more football because they're going to be able to see Taylor Swift. And there was an article this weekend in the Chicago Tribune by one of my favorite writers, Heidi Stevens, and she writes an article. She writes a column called "The Balancing Act," and she talks about lots of different things. But this one was really about, like, why the focus on Taylor Swift, and is there a wasted opportunity to really turn this around? And if your kids or your wife is really into Taylor Swift, and you love football, this could be an opportunity to make this watching football a family event, because your kids and your spouse or whomever will really, it's sort of like a twofer. You get to watch football and you get to be around with your family, because they do pan over to Taylor a lot. Now, I found it interesting, Alyssa, that you watch a lot of football, and you're a diehard fan all season long. And you said that you really hadn't sort of caught up on all this Taylor craze. So I'm curious to hear what your interpretation of this football season has been, given I'm sort of on the outside looking in, but you're actually in it. And you didn't think that there was a lot of distraction around Taylor. So give me your feelings about
Yeah, I
that.
mean, I think that there's a lot of times in a lot of different sports where they pan out to the celebrities who are out in the crowd. There'll be different individuals. And so I don't think that's any different. I mean, did they go back to Taylor more than once? I mean, usually that's like a one and done kind of thing. They did a couple of times, but I don't think that they stayed on her long enough for it to influence my perception of the game. I mean, the game was going, it didn't really distract from the actual plays. I think if it was obnoxious and they were panning to her every, 2 minutes, I think that would definitely cause some alarm because we're watching the Super Bowl, but I didn't really see it as much of a change from them identifying, you know, different celebrities out in the crowd from time to time. So that's a pretty common thing. The commentators will talk about, oh, so and so is out, um, you know, uh, in the stands and things like that. It's not typically, too much of a distraction to the actual game because again, you're watching it. There was like one commercial um where Ryan Reynolds said, "Has anyone seen my wife?" because she was like Lively was with Taylor Swift. But I mean, like there was some poking fun in it, but again, I thought it was pretty humorous. Um so again, I'm not really sure what what the criticism is because like you said it in what they were saying in the article, it's bringing more people to watch the Super Bowl. I mean, I think that some people watch it just for the commercials and it's, kind of an annual thing to kind of see and then there's a lot of commentary the next day. But I don't know why that would be problematic for her to be bringing more people to watching it, more people talking about, football or her. Um I think that it's great publicity for the NFL. I think I saw some article that said, like, the amount of money that Taylor Swift is bringing in for the NFL, is it's increasing viewership. So, to me, I don't see that as a problem. I'm curious to, and I obviously don't have the other perspective. Um, I think that there's probably individuals are like, this is football. This is not a Taylor Swift concert. So maybe that's where the criticism comes from. But again, if it was interfering with actually watching the game, I could see that kind of through because I definitely want to be able to focus on the game, focus on the players, their plays, what's happening. And so if it was distracting, I would be upset because that's taking away from the plays, but that really in my mind wasn't happening. So that would be my 2 cents. I think that it's good publicity, but at the same time, I don't think that it should be I don't think it should be a problem, but I was saying to you earlier, like, maybe from my perspective, I'm a woman. I have no animosity towards Taylor Swift. I honestly don't know many of her songs. I mean, like, I know the older songs. I don't know any of her newer songs. So I'm not a Swiftie by any means, but I have respect for her. And I think that she is creating really like many of the women, before her in the music industry, like, she's creating a brand, she's creating, a fanhood, and I think that she's modeling for a lot of young women what it means to be successful, and I just can't see the problem with it, but I don't know if I'm maybe naive to how people view it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's been a lot of different, I think, theories about what is it that is really bothering people? Like, is it that, football tends to be a male dominated sport in terms of spectatorship and then having a focus on this successful woman or, romanticizing and bringing like a relationship into football? Is that it? Is it that Taylor Swift is, extremely successful and powerful and, that's distracting from what's going on. And, is it just generally like, men's egos? And is it that something is taking away from what they want to focus on, with the game? But to your point, that a lot of people have really said that, what might be destroying football is really some of the costs and, the way that it's going to be broadcast in the future. And that Taylor Swift is not doing anything that the football league are doing to themselves, and that this year especially so many more people have started watching football because of the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs were playing so well and they were moving towards the Super Bowl and ultimately were in the Super Bowl, and then there was a lot of interaction with Taylor Swift. I mean, I have to say that, I'm my daughter-in-law is a huge she's a Swiftie, and she is probably really follows Taylor Swift very closely. But I mean, what I know of Taylor Swift, is sort of every dream that you would want, to teach your child. Like, you can do anything you want. We support you if you want to have a music, career. This family uprooted themselves and went to Nashville to support, a pretty young child's dream. I mean, she was like 14 when her family moved to Nashville, really on a hope and a dream that something would come of it. And, the fact that she is an extremely confident woman, she has challenged some of those stories where singers, male and female, might be taken for a ride financially because they give up so much of their power when they sign contracts. And there was a story a couple years ago, maybe less than two, where she re-recorded all of her own music because somebody, sort of like, I don't know, sold music that she was trying to buy, but they sold it around her. And so she just said, okay, well, I'll just re record everything and then I'll get people to buy my recording of it, my ownership of it. And you know what? For me, strategically and from a business standpoint, I think it's a very important lesson that instead of feeling like you're being victimized, there's a way to take control of it and be proactive. Some people might think she was being aggressive. Some people might think that, she isn't playing by the rules. But you know what? I don't think that the people who sold the music from out under her were playing by the rules either. And she just found a way to outsmart them, honestly. And if she is just one of the highest, rate, earning women out there in the music industry. I think this era's, concert series, the movie, and everything else, has made over $1 billion globally. I mean, that is an immense amount of money for one concert in a couple years of a person's life. And she's extremely successful. She's extremely smart. And so I think there's the opportunity is to really, instead of bad mouthing her, is to be able to say to your children, male and female, look at this person who is really, you know, a great example of somebody who knows what she wants to do, has a dream, went after it, is successful, is generally pretty well liked by most people in her industry. She's not catty. She doesn't talk about other women. She doesn't do any of that. And she's extremely confident. She knows what she wants. She's extremely respectful. She's very family oriented with her family and now Kelsey's family. I mean, I'm at a loss for why there's all this bad mouthing of Taylor Swift. And I'm not by definition a Swiftie. I enjoy her music. I, truly appreciate the amount of songwriting she can do and the fact that she can, really turn anything into a hit song and that she takes raw emotion and is able to convert that into something beautiful that a lot of people appreciate. I mean, to me, that's something extraordinary. It's not something that she should be torn down about. But, I think you and I probably agree, Alyssa. We're sort of confused about all this hoopla about Taylor Swift. Um, have you any other thoughts as I've been talking about, sort of like my wanderings and musings about, you know, how much I admire her for what she represents, and yet I don't understand why she is made
Yeah,
out
I
to be
mean, the
some
only
bad
other thought that I
person.
had was, and I don't know what her background, like how much she watched, like if her family was like a big football family or something like that. I think like people would be like, oh, she's all of a sudden like, a fan because she's dating one of the players or something like that. Like, where was she before? Like, I mean, like that might be part of it. Like, fair weather, she's just cheering, but like maybe she'll be dating somebody else in the future and she'll cheer for that team. And I don't know. Again, I'm probably pulling at straws because there's not much here, but I could see people saying like, you know, this is supposed to be about the players. This is supposed to be about the game. And we're pulling away from that. And I mean, we're having this conversation about Taylor Swift and it's not about, Kansas City. It's not about the Super Bowl. I mean, they won, but I think that they're almost diminished. Like, yes, they won the Super Bowl and everybody, who is a Kansas City fan is excited, um, but at the same time, I think that it's got a little bit overshadowed by all of the Taylor Swift like news and outlets and things like that. So again, I think that there is some ability to kind of say, oh, she came in and now this is like popular, but what does that mean for like again, if she started dating somebody else, like, you know, what would that look like? So I can see that aspect. So that was the only thought that came to mind. But at the same time, I think that really at the end of the day, you know, you and I were talking about like we kind of feel bad for her because she's just so much in the limelight. Like I just saw this morning that she went and had chicken wings afterwards, and it was like okay, like I don't really know why that's news, because but she everything that she does is under scrutiny. Like everything any place that she goes, she can't really have any privacy. And to me, that's just unfortunate because she is a human being at the end of the day and she deserves to have some of that like time away from the limelight and away from the spotlight. But I don't think that she gets that. And that takes its toll on people. So it's unfortunate in that regard. But I think, yeah, go on.
And I also the only thing I was gonna say too is that, the media made such a big deal about the fact that, she
Yeah.
was flying in from Tokyo because she was performing the day before, and I'm sure that concert schedule
Yeah.
was planned, like, how many years ago or whatever, and so she makes every attempt to be there to support her, her partner during this very important, game in his career. And it's like, even that is like wrong. She can't, she is trying to be like most women. I mean, she's trying to be something for everyone, right? For her partner, for her career, for the business relationship she has, the commitment she's made to her fans. Like she's trying to keep all those balls in the air. And all we can talk about is how much, what is the carbon footprint for her taking a plane from Tokyo to Vegas to watch this football game. And I'm like, really? Like she's performing in front of like how many thousands of people the night before, having to focus on that job that she has. And then she has to take a 13-hour flight to, I mean, it's like nobody stops and thinks. Like, once again, the theme I think that I'm trying to find out is that we as women, we try to do it all, right? We have to take care of all these different people and we put ourselves last. Like she could have, clearly nobody would have disputed if she said, you know what, I've got this last show in Tokyo, like I'm going to have to miss your game. Like, but as women, we try to make everybody happy and we want to be there to support the people that we love. That's all she was trying to do. She was just simply trying to support her partner and be there for an important moment in his career. And we were all of a sudden worried about the amount of like fuel she was burning and how much money does she have that she could do that. And I mean, I just get so frustrated because it's like, is it because it's a woman? That's, and I'm not trying to create like angst for no reason. But I sometimes get to the point of like, if this was a man who was doing this for a woman he loved, would there be as much
I don't think
scrutiny
so.
on that?
I don't think that there would be. I think that, I
Yeah,
mean,
I don't either.
I think that there would just be like, "Oh, he's there." They probably would have panned to him, like, I mean, I'm trying to think of, like, you know, somebody who would have, similar, uh fandom. Nobody comes to mind. I mean, like, nobody talked much about Usher, poor guy. I mean, like, there was a discussion about, which generation owns Usher, like, like, "Oh, this is my generation." But, like, there was, like, brief conversations, but, I mean, he did the halftime show. But again, like, I think he got a little bit overshadowed. I felt bad for him because I think that, again, they were like, "Oh, it should have been Taylor Swift as the halftime show." I heard that. That's not me. That's not my opinion, but, um, I mean, again, I don't think that there would be the same conversations if, uh, you know
Yeah. And the other thing about it too is that, and I don't, I mean, I think of a character, like if somebody else was in this situation, especially somebody who loves publicity. I can think of a couple people like that. They would have really mugged to the camera. And she was really, in my opinion, she was trying to stay out of the limelight. And I have to say that, like you, I'm not a real football watcher. And usually by after the halftime show, I'm done. We're done with it. But the game was so good and there was so much excitement about what was happening on the field that it really, I don't think that she or even the commercials really held a candle to the game itself. And, just what they were doing and of course going into overtime and like we watched in my like Dan and
Mhm.
we watched the whole game and that's unheard of because usually, like I said, after the performance of the halftime, that's really where our love for this event stops. But because the game was so good, it was,
Okay.
we wanted to see it till the end. And so I think that in itself is like evidence to me that nothing really distracted, even the commercials, like everything paled in comparison to the actual sport that was going on and how hard both teams were playing, which is really what I was left with. I mean, I didn't care, if Taylor Swift came on the field and, kissed him or whatnot. I mean, by that time we were over it, but at the same, but people still talked about that. They still showed clips of that. And it just amazes me. But yeah, I think that's the struggle that I have is, why it's such a big deal when it's a woman. And, if somebody else was doing some of these other things, would it be a big deal? And there are, a lot of people who would probably argue with me and say, no, that's not true. But I think that there would be a romanticism about a man who went to support, his partner or his wife or something. I mean, I think that there's still a lot of romanticism when, men,
Mm.
quote unquote babysit their children, or, they do something special for their wife. And it's like so much credit is given to a man for doing something that we expect him to do. But yet, women who, either, there are people who just criticize, or there are people who minimize, or there are people who, try to sort of distract from what's going on. And so I don't know. I mean, I almost feel bad because here I raised this topic, and raised it out of like surprise and confusion. Like, what is the big deal? But once again, it's one more person talking about Taylor Swift and the Super Bowl, which I understand that I'm creating my own problem with it. But I guess, for somebody who isn't, a Swiftie, or somebody who really truly lives and dies by Taylor Swift, I just wanted to give her some, credit for being so, I think, I don't know, just so respectful and polite in this mayhem that she calls her life. I mean, she just she's always very above board, and she doesn't do anything to either draw attention to herself or, distract from herself. I mean, she just, I think, tries to live her life the best way she can, and is extremely successful at it. But I just sort of wish we could leave them alone and let them, figure out their relationship without 20 million opinions involved in, every step that they take. And, it just makes me laugh because eating chicken wings is like one of the hardest things to do without getting your face all smeared with, hot sauce. And here this poor woman is probably being, pictures taken
Right.
and everything else. Like, it's hard to just have a normal life, and just try to do that. But yeah, I don't know if there's a lot more to say about it. I think the what I come back to is that there was an opportunity to bring your kids and talk to your girls, or, explore this, this love that you may have for a sport, and to enlarge that circle. And yet, if there were a bunch of men who are criticizing and not taking the opportunity, then that truly is a wasted chance that, you may not get again. And so, I mean, I think that's really what I mean. We can't make it about anything more than that. But I
Mm.
mean, I stand behind it. I think it's unfortunate. Um, I see her for what she's doing, is trying to support the person she's with, and, kudos to her for doing what she thought was right. And, hats off for you to perform, in such an energetic, because she does long concerts too. They're usually 3 hours long, and then to then find the endurance, um, maybe she slept on the plane, but I mean, to be able to come in and to be watching a game that is also extremely long, and to really stand by and support somebody she cares for. I mean, I think it's a wonderful thing to see. And isn't that what, a mutual relationship looks like?
Right, exactly. I mean, I think that, time will tell where this relationship goes, but I think that, they're definitely a power couple, and I think that, now it will probably maybe lessen a little bit now the Super Bowl's behind them. Maybe they'll get, the opportunity to kind of have a relationship not all the time in the spotlight, but I think that that all comes with being, as successful as Taylor Swift is, it kind of comes with the territory too. So I would agree. I mean, I don't know that I have much more to say about it, but I think that it's definitely worth thinking about. And so, as always, we encourage our listeners to chime in. Let us know what you're thinking. Did you think that it was distracting to have Taylor Swift present at the Super Bowl? Or, maybe you have a similar perspective that it didn't really take away from it. Or did you just watch the Super Bowl for Taylor Swift
Yeah.
sightings? Like, any of the above is a possibility. So let us know what you're thinking. Feel free to email us at the deconstructed woman podcast at gmail.com, or check us out on our Facebook page. We'd love to hear from you. And also, if you are listening to this and have subscribed, or if you haven't subscribed, make sure that you do and leave us a review so that we can get our podcast out to more people. So we'd love to hear from you, and we will talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to our podcast, The Deconstructed Woman. If you liked this podcast, please share it with your friends, rate this episode, or subscribe to be notified of all new content. We want to hear from you, our listener. Do you have thoughts on the discussions we're having? Want to share topic suggestions? Or want to join us for a topic that you're passionate about? Contact us at our email address, thedeconstructedwoman@gmail.com.